In 1909, explorers claimed to find Egyptian artifacts in Arizona's underground caves. The story was buried, the site was sealed off, and everyone involved was silenced. But here is what keeps me up at night. Those tunnels never collapsed. They are still accessible, and people who go looking for them still disappear. What is really hidden in Arizona's underground will blow your mind. Imagine a network of passages so extensive that if you laid them end to end, they would stretch from Phoenix all the way to New York City and back again. This is not science fiction. This is Arizona's terrifying underground reality that nobody talks about. These are not just random holes in the ground. We are talking about engineered marvels that plunge over 4,000 feet below the surface, deeper than the tallest skyscrapers stand tall. Some of these shafts drop so far down that falling into one means you would disappear into absolute darkness forever. The Superstition Mountains, Tombstone, Bisbee, and Jerome hold the highest concentration of these underground networks. If you looked at a map showing every tunnel beneath these areas, you would see more empty space than solid ground. The earth beneath these towns is literally Swiss cheese. This underground invasion began in the 1870s, when prospectors discovered that Arizona was not just desert wasteland, but sitting on top of unimaginable mineral wealth. Copper, silver, and gold deposits turned this harsh environment into a destination for thousands of desperate fortune seekers willing to risk everything. The Copper Queen mine in Bisbee alone pulled over $6 billion worth of ore from the earth during its lifetime. $6 billion from one single mine. The United Verde mine in Jerome earned the title of the richest copper mine on planet Earth at its peak production. These were not small-time operations run by a few guys with pickaxes. These were massive industrial complexes employing thousands of workers, with vertical shafts descending thousands of feet, elaborate rail systems moving ore through miles of tunnels, and vast chambers carved from solid rock using explosives and brute force. The men who worked these mines endured 12-hour shifts in sweltering heat that often exceeded 100 degrees. They faced constant danger from cave-ins, toxic gases, and equipment failures, all while using minimal safety equipment that would be considered criminally negligent by today's standards. Immigrants from Mexico, China, Europe, and across the United States flooded into these mining camps, each group bringing their own culture and traditions. They lived in makeshift towns that sprang up overnight, creating communities where different languages mixed, and survival depended on working together in the darkness below. But here is where the story gets truly bizarre. Some of these underground spaces were not just mines. They were entire cities built beneath the surface, where complete communities functioned in the darkness, with streets, businesses, and homes that never saw daylight. Jerome presents one of the most dramatic examples. Entire streets and buildings were constructed on multiple levels, carved directly into the mountainside. Some structures existed almost entirely underground, with basements that opened directly into mine tunnels, creating a confusing maze where surface and subsurface blurred together. In Bisbee, an extensive tunnel network beneath the town connected businesses, homes, and mine entrances in ways that locals used for decades. Rumors persist of elaborate Prohibition-era smuggling routes that utilized these hidden corridors to move illegal alcohol right under the noses of law enforcement. Inside the mines themselves, workers created infrastructure that resembled small underground cities. They built hospitals for treating injured miners, extensive supply rooms stocked with equipment and food, stables for the mules that hauled ore carts, and even small chapels where terrified men prayed before dangerous shifts. Some miners actually lived underground for days at a time during their work rotations. They slept in chambers carved specifically for that purpose, eating meals and resting in spaces that never felt fresh air or sunlight. Their entire existence during work periods happened in artificial light and recycled air. Today, portions of these underground cities remain accessible through tourist operations, like the Queen Mine Tour in Bisbee. Visitors get a sanitized version of what once existed, but the dangerous unexplored sections stretch far beyond what any tour will ever show. The real mysteries lie in the forbidden zones. Ghost towns like Ruby offer surface access to these lost communities. Their connection to underground operations is still visible in shaft openings and tunnel entrances that dot the landscape, many of them unsealed and leading straight down into darkness that has not been explored in over a century. But beyond the documented mining operations, there are mysteries that continue to perplex researchers and fuel wild speculation. Tunnels exist throughout Arizona that predate modern mining or serve purposes that remain completely unclear, even today, and what we are finding in them does not make sense. Some of these passages show evidence of construction techniques and precision that seem inconsistent with the tools and methods available to miners of that era. The walls are too smooth, the angles too perfect, the engineering too advanced for men working with hand tools by candlelight. Native American legends speak of underground worlds and sacred caverns that existed long before white settlers arrived. Hopi emergence stories describe humanity's ascent from subterranean realms through various levels of existence, suggesting these tunnels might have spiritual or cultural significance we are only beginning to understand. Spanish colonial records hint at secret mining operations, conducted centuries before the American mining boom. Persistent legends tell of sealed tunnels containing vast treasures that conquistadors could not transport back to Mexico, and some claim these tunnels are marked with symbols that only Spanish royalty could decode. Remote areas of the state contain precisely carved passages that show advanced engineering, with smooth walls and deliberate layouts that suggest purposes beyond simple ore extraction. Some researchers believe these tunnels were designed for transportation, storage, or even habitation rather than mining. The story that captivates the most imaginations involves alleged discoveries in the Grand Canyon. A sensational 1909 Arizona Gazette article described Egyptian artifacts and elaborately carved chambers deep within canyon caves, claiming explorers found hieroglyphics and mummies in underground complexes. While no evidence has ever substantiated these claims, and mainstream archaeology dismisses the story as complete fabrication, the legend refuses to die. It drives ongoing speculation about what might lie hidden in Arizona's most restricted and unexplored caverns, places where the public is forbidden to enter. Military installations and Cold War-era facilities add another layer of intrigue. Rumors persist of government tunnels and underground bunkers constructed during times of national security concerns, though concrete information remains classified or simply unavailable. What was the government hiding beneath the desert? The Superstition Mountains stand as Arizona's most infamous underground mystery, home to the legendary Lost Dutchman Gold Mine that has captivated treasure hunters for over a century. This is where obsession turns deadly, and the line between legend and reality completely disappears. The story centers on Jacob Waltz, a German immigrant who allegedly discovered an incredibly rich gold deposit somewhere in the treacherous Superstitions during the late 1800s. The gold he brought back was so pure it seemed impossible, and he guarded his secret with paranoid intensity. Waltz reportedly made several trips to his secret mine, returning to Phoenix with remarkably pure gold ore that sparked immediate curiosity and greed. But he never revealed the exact location, not even to close friends who begged him to share the wealth. On his deathbed in 1891, Waltz gave cryptic clues about the mine's location. He spoke of landmarks that may or may not exist, directions that made no sense, and warnings about dangers protecting the gold. Then he died, taking the precise location to his grave. His cryptic deathbed clues launched generations of treasure seekers into the forbidding mountains. The harsh terrain, extreme heat that can reach 120 degrees, and dangerous topography have claimed numerous lives. Bodies of failed treasure hunters are occasionally found decades after they disappeared. Tales abound of prospectors who vanished without a trace in the Superstitions. Some say they found the mine and were killed to protect the secret. Others believe the mountains themselves claim those who seek to steal their gold, as if the land is cursed or protected by forces beyond understanding. Mysterious deaths continue to be attributed to either the brutal elements or something more sinister. Hikers find skeletal remains in remote canyons, always with their supplies intact, suggesting they did not die from thirst or exposure, but from something else entirely. Occasional discoveries of old tunnels marked with strange Spanish inscriptions or mysterious symbols fuel the legend. Some markings match no known language or code system, leading to theories about secret societies or ancient civilizations that used these mountains long before recorded history. The Superstitions contain countless abandoned prospect holes, natural caves, and rumored tunnel entrances. Any one of them could theoretically lead to the Lost Bonanza. The problem is that searching them all would take multiple lifetimes and risk certain death in the process. Theories about the mine's location range, from the scientifically plausible to the wildly speculative. Some researchers believe it was simply a natural gold deposit that has since collapsed or been obscured by rock slides and erosion over the past century and a half. Others suggest elaborate conspiracies involving hidden maps, codes carved into rocks, and secret markers that only the initiated can interpret. They believe multiple groups throughout history have known the location but kept it hidden for reasons relating to power, control, or supernatural protection. What remains undeniable is the dangerous obsession the legend inspires. People continue to risk, and sometimes lose their lives in pursuit of Waltz's gold, despite warnings from authorities and the hundreds who have searched unsuccessfully before them. The obsession overrides common sense and self-preservation. Now we need to talk about the sobering reality of these underground spaces. The romantic allure of abandoned mines must be tempered with the understanding that these sites rank among the most hazardous environments imaginable, and they kill people every single year. Structural instability causes tunnel collapses without warning, as timber supports rot and rock faces fracture over decades of neglect. You could be standing in a tunnel that has been stable for 80 years, and in the next second, Thousands of tons of rock crush you before you can even scream. The air itself can be lethal. Pockets of carbon monoxide and hydrogen sulfide accumulate in low-lying areas and confined spaces, causing unconsciousness and death before victims even realize the danger. You walk into an invisible cloud of poison, and you are dead in seconds. Vertical shafts plunge thousands of feet into absolute darkness, often hidden by rotted boards or concealed by overgrown vegetation. They create deadly pitfalls for anyone exploring without proper equipment and knowledge. One wrong step and you fall into blackness until you hit bottom and die. Old dynamite and blasting materials remain in many mines, becoming increasingly unstable and explosive with age. These materials are capable of detonating from simple vibration, temperature changes, or even exposure to light after sitting in darkness for decades. They are ticking time bombs. Water that collects in underground chambers is frequently contaminated with heavy metals and toxic minerals. Drinking this water causes severe illness or death as arsenic, lead, and mercury poison your system. Even touching it can cause chemical burns and long-term health problems. Bat colonies inhabiting abandoned mines can carry rabies, while spiders, scorpions, and snakes find perfect shelter in the dark recesses. Arizona bark scorpions, one of the most venomous species in North America, thrive in these environments. A sting in a remote tunnel could be a death sentence. Statistics on deaths and injuries in abandoned mines paint a grim picture. Every year, multiple people die from falls, asphyxiation, drowning in flooded shafts, or getting lost in the labyrinth and succumbing to dehydration. Their bodies are sometimes not recovered for months or years. Beyond individual safety concerns, environmental damage from abandoned mines continues to affect Arizona's landscape and water supply. Acid mine drainage poisons streams and groundwater as exposed minerals react with water and air, creating toxic runoff that kills fish and contaminates drinking water for communities downstream. Government agencies have worked to seal the most dangerous sites, installing barriers and gates to prevent access. But thousands of openings remain accessible due to the sheer number of sites and the remote locations of many mines. It is physically and financially impossible to seal them all. The barriers that do exist are frequently vandalized or circumvented by determined trespassers who do not understand or do not respect the very real dangers involved. They cut locks, tear down fences, and squeeze through gaps, often bringing children with them into environments that professionals fear. Despite all these hazards, legitimate and legal exploration of Arizona's underground heritage continues through professional channels that prioritize safety and historical preservation. Mine explorers, geologists, historians, and archaeologists with proper permits and equipment make spectacular discoveries that justify the careful approach. Massive underground chambers rival cathedral spaces in size and grandeur. Their walls glitter with mineral formations that have developed over decades of abandonment, creating natural artwork that no human artist could replicate. Crystals the size of baseball bats grow from ceilings and floors. Mining equipment from a century ago sits perfectly preserved in the dry desert air. Ore carts, hand tools, drilling equipment, and even personal items belonging to long-dead miners remain exactly where they were left, offering tangible connections to the men who once worked these depths. Graffiti and inscriptions from the 1800s provide direct links to individual miners. Their names and dates carved into tunnel walls serve as permanent testimony to their presence. Some messages are poignant, like "God have mercy on my soul," or "Tell Mary I tried." Some explorations have discovered underground lakes of crystal clear water in chambers that have never seen daylight. These isolated ecosystems contain unique bacteria and organisms that have evolved separately from surface life, creating biological mysteries that scientists are only beginning to study. Archaeological finds include Native American artifacts suggesting these spaces were known and utilized long before industrial mining. Stone tools, pottery shards, and ceremonial items indicate spiritual or practical use of natural caves and possibly even human-made tunnels that predate European contact. Evidence of Spanish colonial mining operations predates American settlement by centuries. Old smelting sites, primitive tools bearing Spanish markings, and tunnel sections showing construction techniques consistent with 16th and 17th century methods prove that Spanish miners worked Arizona's underground, long before the territory belonged to the United States. Professional documentation of these sites provides invaluable insights into industrial history, mining technology evolution, and the daily lives of frontier workers. Each discovery adds pieces to the puzzle of how Arizona developed from wilderness into a modern state built on mineral wealth extracted from below. Organizations dedicated to mining heritage preservation work to protect the most historically significant sites while creating educational opportunities for the public. Their efforts balance the desire for access and knowledge against the necessity of safety and conservation. They recognize that these underground spaces represent irreplaceable chapters in Arizona's story that deserve protection for future generations. Once a tunnel collapses or a site is destroyed, That piece of history is gone forever, with no way to recover it. Looking toward the future, Arizona's underground legacy faces questions about preservation, access, and continued mystery. Renewed interest in these sites spans multiple purposes, from heritage tourism to scientific research to even potential future mining as technology advances. Heritage tourism operations allow safe public access to historically significant mines. More tour operations are opening each year, offering people the chance to experience a controlled version of what miners endured, complete with hard hats, headlamps, and guided walks through stable sections. Advanced geological surveys are mapping tunnel networks with modern technology. Ground-penetrating radar, laser scanning, and three-dimensional modeling create detailed maps of underground spaces without requiring human entry into dangerous areas. The technology reveals networks more complex than anyone imagined. Potential future mining operations loom as new extraction methods make previously uneconomical deposits viable. Companies are eyeing old mines with modern techniques that could extract minerals the original miners left behind because they lacked the technology to process low-grade ore. Efforts to create legal and safe ways for people to experience Arizona's underground heritage are expanding. Virtual reality technology allows digital exploration of spaces too dangerous for physical access, bringing the underground world to people without risking lives or damaging fragile historical sites. Yet despite all the exploration and documentation, vast sections of Arizona's underground world remain unmapped and unknown. Tunnel networks extend into areas that have not been entered in over a century, their passages blocked by collapses or simply lost as surface landmarks changed. Institutional knowledge died with old-timers who knew the locations. Men who worked these mines in their youth took the information to their graves, and their children had no interest in preserving the dangerous knowledge of how to access forgotten sections. Lost mines beyond just the famous Dutchman might still exist. Their entrances could be sealed by rock slides, or deliberately hidden by miners who intended to return but never did, killed in accidents, murdered by claim jumpers, or simply dying before they could pass on the secret. Even beneath well-known sites, the possibility exists of undiscovered chambers and passages that branching tunnels might access. Spaces that have remained dark and untouched since they were abandoned generations ago could be separated from known tunnels by just a few feet of rock. New technologies occasionally reveal anomalies, suggesting unknown voids and passages beneath Arizona's surface. Ground-penetrating radar picks up hollow spaces that do not correspond to any mapped tunnel, raising fresh questions about what else might lie waiting to be found. Some of these anomalies show geometric patterns that suggest deliberate construction rather than natural formation. Rectangular voids, parallel passages, and chamber systems that follow no pattern consistent with mining operations imply purpose and planning that remains mysterious. The scale of what remains unknown is staggering. Experts estimate that we have documented perhaps 20% of Arizona's underground network at best. The other 80% exists in records that were lost, memories that faded, or maps that were destroyed or hidden. Private property complicates exploration. Many tunnel entrances sit on land owned by people who forbid access for liability reasons. Even if researchers suspect significant historical or archaeological value, they cannot legally enter without permission that owners rarely grant. Claims of secret chambers containing treasure or artifacts surface regularly. Most are hoaxes or wishful thinking, but occasionally someone produces evidence compelling enough to warrant investigation. Photographs of carved symbols, unusual artifacts, or mineral samples that suggest undiscovered deposits of value. Urban legends about specific tunnels take on lives of their own. Stories of the Bisbee ghost tunnels, the Jerome demon mine, and the Tombstone mystery shaft circulate with details that change with each telling, blending fact with fiction until separating truth from fantasy becomes impossible. Conspiracy theories thrive in this environment of genuine mystery. Some claim the government uses old mines for secret storage, that cartels hide drugs in forgotten tunnels, or that wealthy families have sealed chambers full of stolen treasures they guard with armed security. Native American tribes often oppose exploration of certain sites they consider sacred. Their oral histories describe specific caverns and underground spaces as portals to the spirit world or burial grounds that must not be disturbed, creating conflicts between cultural preservation and historical research. The ethics of exploration present genuine dilemmas. Should researchers risk their lives to document history? Should private citizens be prevented from accessing public lands that contain dangerous mines? Who owns the artifacts and minerals discovered in abandoned spaces? These questions have no easy answers. Economic interests clash with preservation goals. Mining companies want to reopen old sites, historians want to preserve them, adventurers want to explore them, and government agencies want to seal them. Each group believes their priorities should take precedence, and compromise proves difficult. Climate change and weather patterns affect these underground spaces in unexpected ways. Increased rainfall causes flooding in tunnels that remain dry for a century, while shifting groundwater levels destabilize passages and create new sinkholes that open suddenly, sometimes swallowing roads or buildings. Urban development encounters these underground networks with alarming regularity. Construction projects in Tucson, Phoenix, and smaller cities occasionally break through into unknown tunnels, halting building and forcing expensive geological surveys to ensure stability before work can continue. Educational programs teach new generations about Arizona's underground heritage. School field trips to safe mine tours, university courses on mining history and geology, and museum exhibits preserve the stories before they disappear completely. Interest among young people is surprisingly strong. The economic impact of mining heritage tourism grows each year. Towns like Bisbee and Jerome have transformed their mining past into major attractions that bring millions of dollars to local economies, proving that protecting history can be profitable while honoring those who built it. International researchers study Arizona's mines as examples of frontier-era industrial development. Teams from universities worldwide visit to document construction techniques, study geological formations, and analyze the social structures of mining communities, producing papers that advance multiple fields of academic research. Film crews and documentary makers are drawn to the mysterious nature of these underground spaces. Productions range from serious historical documentaries to sensational treasure hunting shows, each contributing to public awareness, while sometimes exaggerating or distorting the real stories. Artists find inspiration in the abandoned mines. Photographers capture haunting images of decaying equipment and passages disappearing into darkness. Painters create works depicting the harsh lives of miners, and writers craft stories set in these underground worlds where history and imagination merge. The psychological impact of these spaces fascinates researchers. Claustrophobia, temporal disorientation, and sensory deprivation affect people who spend extended time underground. Miners developed unique coping mechanisms, and understanding these helps us comprehend how humans adapt to extreme environments anywhere. Technology borrowed from mine exploration assists other fields. Techniques developed to map dangerous tunnels now help archaeologists explore tombs and caves, assist rescue operations in collapsed buildings, and even guide the design of underground facilities for subways and utilities. Environmental monitoring equipment placed in old mines tracks air quality, temperature fluctuations, and geological stability. Data collected helps predict earthquakes, understand climate patterns, and develop safer construction methods for underground infrastructure in cities worldwide. Biological research in these isolated ecosystems reveals new species of bats, insects, and microorganisms. Some bacteria found in mine water show potential for cleaning up toxic waste or producing antibiotics, transforming dangerous abandoned sites into sources of medical breakthroughs. Ghost hunters and paranormal investigators claim Arizona's abandoned mines rank among the most haunted locations in America. They report voices, apparitions, and inexplicable phenomena in tunnels where dozens of miners died, though skeptics attribute these experiences to natural causes like gas exposure and psychological suggestion. Legal battles over mineral rights and old claims occasionally flare up. Descendants of original miners sue for ownership, companies claim existing rights, and governments assert control over abandoned sites, creating lawsuits that drag on for years while the tunnels remain in legal limbo. International mining disasters draw attention back to Arizona's abandoned mines. When tragedies occur in operating mines elsewhere, people remember that Arizona's tunnels represent hundreds of unrecorded deaths, collapses, and disasters that claimed lives but were never officially documented or investigated. The immigrant experience in Arizona's mines reflects broader American stories. Chinese workers faced discrimination. Mexican miners organized early labor unions. European immigrants brought socialist ideas, and African American miners fought for equal pay, all while working side by side in the darkness where race mattered less than survival. Women's roles in mining communities deserve recognition. They ran boarding houses, provided medical care, organized strikes, and occasionally worked in mines themselves disguised as men. Their stories are finally emerging from historical records that previously ignored or minimized their contributions. Children worked in Arizona's mines despite laws prohibiting it. Families desperate for income sent boys as young as 10 into the tunnels to push ore carts or operate simple machinery. Many died young from accidents or lung disease, their short lives sacrificed to corporate profits. Labor organizing in Arizona's mines helped birth the modern union movement. Strikes, sometimes violent, led to improved safety standards, 8-hour workdays, and better pay. The conflicts between workers and owners played out underground and on surface, shaping labor relations nationwide. The boom and bust cycle of mining destroyed communities overnight. Towns that boomed with thousands of residents became ghost towns within months when ore played out or prices crashed. Families invested everything in homes and businesses that became worthless, their dreams buried with the mines. Environmental restoration of mining sites costs billions of dollars that companies no longer operating cannot pay. Taxpayers fund cleanup of acid drainage, filling of dangerous shafts, and removal of toxic waste, paying for profits extracted generations ago by corporations that no longer exist. Cultural heritage embodied in these mines matters to descendant communities. People whose great-grandparents died in the tunnels feel deep connections to these spaces. They fight to preserve sites where family history happened, viewing destruction or sealing as erasure of their heritage. The story of Arizona's secret underground world ultimately reflects the complex relationship between human ambition, natural resources, and the lasting marks we leave upon the landscape. Every tunnel represents someone's dream of striking it rich, someone's sacrifice in dark, dangerous work, someone's contribution to building what Arizona became. Beneath the familiar desert vistas that define Arizona in popular imagination lies an entire hidden dimension of history, danger, and enduring mystery. The contrast between the sun-baked surface and the cool, dark tunnels below symbolizes the dual nature of Arizona's identity, beautiful and harsh, inviting and dangerous. These thousands of miles of tunnels and chambers represent the dreams and struggles of countless individuals who bet their lives and futures on what they might find in the darkness. Some found wealth beyond imagination, others found only death, but all left marks that persist long after they vanished. Arizona's underground secrets remind us that even in our modern age of satellite mapping and digital documentation, genuine mysteries still exist.